All right. We are now joined by Regan Smith, driver of the number 7 Hunt Brothers Pizza Chevrolet. Regan, you're currently second in points. You have the most top tens of any Nationwide Series driver this year, and you had a third last season here at Kansas Speedway. Talk about your outlook heading into this weekend.
Yeah, we had a really good race car last year here, and watching the tapes on it and rereading the notes on how the weekend took place and things that happened. Naturally, I'm excited to be back here. We felt like the car probably should have won last year, and we got trapped on pit road one time with a caution and had to do the wave around and stuff like that. And we had to work a little harder all day than we thought we might otherwise have to. So excited to be back here. It's a good time to come to a track that you really like racing at from a point standpoint. We got to start trying to chip into Chase's lead here sometime soon. I mean, 5 races, they're starting to dwindle, and at some point we got to take a chunk out of that. And I think this is a place where a lot of strategy plays can happen. A lot of things can take place throughout the course of the race that gives you opportunities to either be in the front of the pack or in the middle of the pack. And when that happens, you never know how the race will unfold. And it seems like we haven't seen a lot of that this year in the Nationwide Series. So that's something that could play a part this weekend that we haven't seen much of this year.
Sounds good. We'll open it up for questions. Raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll start here with Bob.
Bob Pocker, Sporting News. Dale tweeted that you had signed to be back. I don't know if you can tell us whether it's 1 year or 2 years, and just can you talk about continuing in the Nationwide Series and maybe where you feel like it kind of sits in your career now compared to 2 years ago when you made the first commitment?
Yeah, it's I'm back for next year with them. It's just a 1 year deal, and excited to be back. I've been fortunate to have a great place to call home and a great place to race at with good people, good sponsors, and fast race cars. And as a driver, that's something that's that you always look for and that's important. You want to have an opportunity to go out there and showcase what you can do every week, and I'm fortunate enough to have that. And as bosses, Dale, Kelly, and Mr. H have been absolutely amazing for me, and learned a lot over the past 2 years, and sure I'm going to learn a lot more next year even, and continue to try and get that championship, whether it's this year or next year, and with all things said, I'd like to get 2 in a row, so that'd be nice. And we're going to continue to work hard this year and then focus on next year after that.
Go to Pete.
Pete Pistone, MRN.com, SiriusXM. Performance aside, what's different this year about you and this race team versus last year, Regan?
Well, I think, we've had a lot more consistency in drivers every week in the cars, with myself running the whole year, with Chase running the whole year. Harvick's run the majority of the races on the 5 car. It just seems like we've had that more consistent feel to it. As a whole, feel like we took another step forward from last year, even as a company. Unfortunately, I don't have the number of wins that the other guys do at this point, but definitely have had the consistency, and I think we've kind of shown where we've run every week has been relatively consistent. Need that to be better. I know that's something I've kind of highlighted. The top 10s are great, but the top 5s are what's going to win the championship, and what you really need to be striving for. So overall, just everybody's worked extremely hard, and we bring good quality fast race cars to the racetrack every week.
Go to Nate.
Nate Ryan, USA Today Sports. Regan, we know you talked about wanting to get back to the Sprint Cup Series. There are some openings right now for next year. Did you have any other options about maybe going back? And does the 1 year deal give you some flexibility about maybe still trying to get back after 2015?
Well, I definitely want to get back to Cup. I don't think I've ever denied that or said that I don't. That's that's the goal. I want to prove that I belong there and get to race on Sundays and run the longer races again. Naturally there are some openings on paper that it would appear on that side. I think a lot of things still have to play out on the Cup side, and a lot of things look like they're still taking place over there. And some quality race teams that are still trying to figure out what they're going to be doing. But at the time, it just felt like it was time to go ahead and start trying to solidify some things for next year, and know, generally speaking, where I'm going to be.
Go to Stan.
Stan Creekmore with Competition Plus. You just made a statement about that extra 100 miles, that extra 100 laps or whatever. There are a good number of journalists who constantly complain that races are too long and everything. What does it mean to you? What do those extra 100 miles or laps mean to you that you feel is so important?
Well, I think from a driver standpoint, it just lets the race play out a little bit differently. It lets, maybe lets the crew chiefs do things a little differently or plan a little differently as they work their race, whether it's working it backwards, working it forwards, whatever they're doing at each racetrack. It gives you one more opportunity to fine tune on the race car and get it perfect for that last stretch run. I think from my standpoint, just the mental toughness, the physical aspect comes into play a little bit more. I like that. I'm a racer. If we run 1,000-mile races, I'd be fine with it. I know nobody wants to watch that, but as drivers, that's kind of our mentality. I think that's why a lot of guys really enjoy the 600 is because it is a long race and there's a lot of other elements that come into factor with it.
Chris Knight, CatchFence.com. Regan, you guys are nearing the end of the stretch of 19 consecutive weeks of racing. How would you guys rate your performance during that time? And is there a race that you guys felt like that you could have made some ground on Chase, but you let it get away from you?
Would you say, 19 races that we're on? Wow, yeah, it's been a long one. I know that. I think we got 2 off weeks coming up, and I don't know anybody in that garage that isn't looking forward to at least the first one. We'll probably get to the second one and be bored already and want to be back at a racetrack. But I think our performance has been good. It's been steady. It hasn't been great, and in order to to gain points and to be where we need to be in the championship hunt, it needs to be great. So these last 5 races we're going to have to be great. That's that's pretty plain and simple. And the team's worked hard. I've worked hard. I got to step my game up. We've all got to do everything we can to try and catch them. And they haven't made many mistakes. So with that said, it's going to be a tough task. But as you guys know, when we get to the last 5 races like this, the pressure ramps up and the stakes ramp up, and mistakes are definitely magnified, as big or as small as they may be. Speaking to races that things happen, I look at Road America. That was one that kind of got under my skin a little bit when the weather came and the way that race played out. I felt like we had a good shot to win that race, and at worst case finished second. And with the rain, I just didn't have the experience in it, and probably played it a little bit too safe with the car, rather than going for it. And then I think the other one was Kentucky. I made a mistake there, and got into an incident, and it probably cost us what should have been about a 5th, 6th place finish, and we ended up 28th instead. So that's a pretty big chunk of points as well. Those 2 really kind of are ones that I highlighted a little bit and said, man, I would do this differently if I could, but. That's the great part about what we do. You can't do it differently. You just got to go out and work hard in whatever the given week is.
Zach Albert, NASCAR.com. Regan, in kind of analyzing what the Sprint Cup options were that were out there, how important was it you at this point in your career to look at competing for a championship week in and week out versus running on Sundays and what might be maybe a top 20 car?
Well, I think running for a championship's always important. That's a big deal. I like running up front, and I like getting top 5s, top 10s, and wins. But that's not to say that any of the openings that are out there aren't capable of doing those things. It just at the time and based on what discussions I had with people and people within my inner circle, I was excited to be able to come back and work at Junior Motorsports for another year. As I said, it's been everything's been great there from day one, and it's been a steady path of growth and of getting better as a company, and that's been fun to be a part of. It's been fun to see that happen and see that take place, and I still think there's another step that we can take, and I know that we're all driven, in the entire race shop, we're all driven to do that and to continue that growth.
Any more questions for Regan? All right, Regan, thanks for the time and good luck this weekend.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys.